Hello and welcome to the Answer Podcast. My name is Pavel Busha, and as always, I am joined by Sebastian Kalemba.
Hello everyone, and today we're going to host Ari Arnbjornsson, who is the epic and unreal evangelist, the one and only, very special guy.
Yeah, his energy is incredible. He has a lot to talk about. He worked on numerous projects, but you can hear a lot about his passion for Unreal Engine, and it will show throughout this whole episode. So let's jump straight into it.
Welcome to the CD Projekt Red podcast featuring Ari Arnbjornsson, the handsome, the funny, the intelligent, and also humble evangelist at Epic Games. Let's get in it.
Well, we have a new host.
All right, I like the startup.
I do a lot of public speaking, so I thought
I can tell.
You look like you've been doing this a while, so let me help a little bit to ease your burden.
Thank you. Finally.
Exactly. All right. So Ari, let's introduce yourself. Let's start from that.
Okay. Hey everyone, my name is Ari Arnbjornsson. I used to be called an evangelist, which is a very weird name for a title. Yeah.
That's your title on LinkedIn.
I just changed it. So now I'm a
The evangelist.
senior software engineer for the technical developer relations team.
Oh.
It's quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to elaborate.
It does mean that as an evangelist, I went to a lot of conferences and I talked to a lot of indies. But now my job has changed a little bit. So now I'm doing technical developer relations. Means that I'm now focusing more on the relations we already have with studios such as CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
And I'm going to way fewer conferences, but I'm spending way more time actually making the presentations.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's a difference in a nutshell. But it still means I'm going a lot on stage and talking.
Yeah.
Which didn't change.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Okay, well, can you tell us a little bit about your past? Because you've been a part of the Returnal, for example, right?
Yeah. So I've been in the game industry for 17 years now. I started by doing Flash games.
Okay.
Actually, the website that got me into the industry was newgrounds.com. Did you hear of Newgrounds?
I did. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it had this like submission process where you could submit either your Flash cartoon and your Flash game. And I got really inspired by that. And I thought I wanted to make animations. But it was fun with computers. And I started making all these like really, really crappy animations because I was not an artist, but I liked the technical aspect of it. When it was time to go to school, so I'm Icelandic, so I'm born in the north of Iceland, like beyond the wall. And there they only had one computer course, and it's just called computer science. So I was like, computers, yes, please. And they taught programming there. And that's when I realized, like, oh my God, like if you take animation and programming, and you put them together, you get video games. And there was no turning back. I was like, okay, screw animation. I'm gonna get into programming video games now.
Okay.
So I started making Flash games, got a job doing Flash games in Iceland. This was during the birth of social games. Before they were called free to play.
Yeah.
So these were the Facebook games, the Mafia Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember Mafia Wars?
Of course.
I feel so old when I say, do you remember Mafia Wars? Here's an HTML game back in the day. All of the gray hair is real, by the way.
Yeah.
And I was there for 4.5 years. Then I met a Finnish girl and I moved to Finland for her. And that's where I got a job offer to join Rovio. And they're the makers of Angry Birds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're
That was a
How many
revolution
hours I
when it comes
spent
to
with
games.
this game.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was like, before then, every time I told someone I'm in the video games industry, people were like, oh, what are you doing? Like, isn't that for kids, whatever? But then when I could say, oh, I work on Angry Birds, suddenly people like opened their eyes like, oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, Angry Birds.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that title.
Yeah,
right?
and I felt a little bit like more validated, like, oh, this is a career. Oh, thank God. And there I was tasked with making the first Facebook Angry Birds game, which was free to play. It was a team, it wasn't just me, so it was a bunch of us. But it was we brought Angry Birds, which was a great premium game, and we made the free to play version of it. So you're welcome, game industry. Fast forward a little bit, some mobile studios, some made it, some didn't. Actually, none of them made it except Rovio. And I got a job offer working on Returnal. as a lead programmer.
It's a big title.
It was a big title. We didn't know it at the time because when Housemarque asked me if I wanted to apply, I was like, "Oh, you do those arcade games? I don't really like arcade games that much." But they were like, "Come talk to us." And I was like, "Okay, I'll talk to you." And there, the creative director, Harry Kruger, he showed me the game. He called it the Elevator Pitch. And I was sold. It's like, wait, this isn't an arcade game. It's like a AAA third-person shooter. It's got a time loop. I was like, it's got a time loop. I was like, wow, like it reminds me a little bit of the movie Triangle. Have you seen the movie Triangle? He was like, I love the movie Triangle. And I was like, oh my God, okay.
It all clicked.
This is clicking. I didn't, but the thing is, this is maybe a little bit inspiring for people that might be watching this presentation. But when they asked me to join, then they started questioning me on my skills. Like I came from mobile games. I was using Unity and Flash. And they were going to use Unreal. This was the first Unreal title. And they needed a lead programmer. So of course it helps if I would have known Unreal. So they asked, do you have any Unreal experience? And I was like, oh, no. I've never used Unreal. I've watched half a Udemy course, but that's it. And then I said, well, okay, and also we're using C++. Have you used C++ professionally? And I was like, oh, well, no, not really. I've used it last time in university. They're like, okay, have you ever made a console game? I was like, oh, no, not really. I've only made mobile games. They're like, okay, have you ever led a team of this size? Oh, not really, no. But still managed to get the job. How did I get the job?
It's an interesting progression, though.
That's very inspiring,
from like Flash to mobile, and then you're going into the big stuff. And also looking at like going engine by engine, like the Flash games are very simple. Unity, for the simpler games, kind of makes sense. Mobile games are developed in a different way. But also then you move to Unreal, which it's a leap, right? But now you were an evangelist for Unreal.
I'll tell it before we get there. I'll tell you a little bit more about how I managed to get the job. Because sure, I always said no.
Like 4 no's. And so...
4 no's, but there was also no but. Because when studios are trying to hire someone, it's not a requirement. It's we wish. It's like, I wish I could have someone that fits all these criteria. But oftentimes you will get a job by not fulfilling all the criteria, but just by being the best available at the time. Luckily for me, I was the best available at the time, because whenever that, like, for example, they said, do you have any Unreal experience? I was like, no, but I do have Unity experience, and I've seen some tutorials, and I don't think it's impossible for me to just, learn it. So I can learn it with you guys. And I'm very thirsty for knowledge, and I think I'll get up to speed quickly. And they're like, well, we'll see. And then they asked me, have you got any C++ experience? I was like, no, but I've like 10 other programming languages. I know the pointers and references, even though it's not exposed in all of them. So like, if anything, C++ will be easier because it's actually explicit in there. Of course, they were like, we don't know. They asked me if I ever made a console game. I said, no, but I made phone games. If anything, that's harder, right? Because it's an even more limited platform. And there's so many variations of like Android phones. There's so many. Like, so if anything, it should be easier. They're like, no. Have you led a team of this size? No, but I have spent half of my career leading teams of various smaller sizes. And I think it would be fun for all of us to learn together how to do this. And of course, they were like, we don't trust you. We're going to make you do a C++ test. I didn't. And I was like, Googled what's modern C++ like. So I was like, oh, that's smart. It's way better than what I learned in uni. I finished the programming test and they were actually like, oh, not bad. Okay. And they were still a bit skeptical. They said, we'll hire you as a senior programmer and then we'll see about making you lead. The thing is, the team didn't have a lead. And I have lead experience. And there was this lead-shaped hole basically in the workflows. Which I kind of just like got sucked into. So I was like, hey, this needs to happen. Can you do that? We need to figure out the workflows. So basically, by the end of my trial period, 6 months in, they're like, hey, okay, I guess we have to tell you, like, hey, we're going to keep you and we should order your business card. So lead, right? And they're asking me, and I'm like, yeah, lead.
Nice.
So hopefully this is an inspiration for anyone out there watching this podcast. Like, you don't have to be the best one. You don't have to fulfill all the criteria. It's like, it is like if they could pick someone. But the thing is, usually studios, they're offering money that whoever fulfill this criteria wouldn't accept, So you just apply, hope for the best, hope that you're the best candidate there's applying at the time, because usually they're in a time, is there a tight on time and they need to fill it. You can be the best thing, the next best thing. Just good enough to get hired. I actually got reached out to Epic Games while I was working on Returnal. And it was not because of my so-called programmer skills. They saw that I was doing a lot for the community. I was working on doing Unreal meetups, which previously, actually I was doing both Unity and Unreal meetups at the same time because I used to do the Unity meetups. And then I was like, there's no Unreal meetups now that I'm using Unreal. I was like, oh, let's do Unreal meetups. And then I started my own conference called Games Helsinki. It's a small conference, 100 people. But I got Epic Games to sponsor it. And that's where they saw like, oh, there's this guy. He's very community oriented and he has a presentation about tech stuff. He might be a good evangelist because we're trying to hire now.
Yeah.
So the evangelist over Europe at that time, Stuart, he reached out to me and said like, hey, like we like kind of how community oriented you are and apparently you're also technical. Do you want to become an evangelist? And I told him, no. I am making this game right now. And this is the most important game in my career because like I am part of all the processes. I'm seeing everything, how the sausage gets made. We're all learning together and it's just, the game is so much fun. It's too important for me. Like I wouldn't give this up for the life of me. Like I think people would kill to get this kind of experience.
That's true.
But then the next day I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, it would be kind of fun though. So I reached back out to him like the next day. I was like, hey, actually, okay, I've been thinking about it. And it sounds like something I would love doing because it's already all the things I'm doing for free. But you're saying you would pay me for it.
I'm taking that job.
Idiots, I would have done it for free.
Win-win, right?
This is how I got into the industry. I just, like, someone was willing to pay me for making games. So I'm like, you didn't even have to offer me the money, but okay, since you're doing it. Don't work for free, people. So I told him after the project, then I could be up for this. And then the project finished and I reached out to him and said, hey, like, it's done now. The next thing is just going to make another game. Now I've already done that. I would like to try this being an evangelist.
So they kept the spot open for you and then you could have just...
Yeah, for like over half a year.
Like opportunity
they said we don't have anyone else in mind, so we'll keep it open for you, which was super flattering.
That's nice. Yeah, super cool. Plus, probably there have been people relying on your skills and, like finishing the game.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to abandon the Housemarque people. I didn't leave in bad faith. It was really hard for me. It's probably the hardest leave I've ever done because I love Housemarque. I love the culture there. If you see an open job at Housemarque, you should take it because these are absolutely wonderful people and the games they're working on are amazing. So it was really heavy-hearted for me to leave them. But I basically told them, hey, if Evangelism doesn't work out, I'll just come back. And they're like, we'll keep you to that.
We'll keep it open.
But Evangelism has been working out for me and now technical developer relations and I've been now at Epic Games for 3.5 years.
That's awesome.
Incredible. What sold you on Unreal in the beginning when you started working with it? What was the thing that you're like, wow, this really, I don't know, enhances my work, makes it easier, make it faster? I don't know. Tell me.
Well, of course I had to use Unreal because the team was using it. But before anyone fires me, I did really like it, and I thought Unreal compared to other engines was just so much fun. Like I really liked using the blueprints and. Also, I really liked that I had the whole source code available to me. That was something I didn't have, for example, in Unity. So the difference was now whenever something, like it wasn't a black box anymore. Whenever we had a crash or something weird, I could just check the source code. And I still feel like I learned more of using Unreal for 1 year with the source code than I did using Unity for 5 years without it. So that's crazy. So
you can understand the context, right? You can dig deeper.
Dig deeper and say like, oh, I'm using this incorrectly. They expect me to use it differently. And just being able to see the examples of how other parts of the engine use that code. And I was sucking up the knowledge.
That's super awesome. Okay, I will actually follow that because like what you said about getting the job at Housemarque, it requires to have this open mind. Like, I didn't know that, but I can learn. And of course, they have to trust you. And you actually managed. And after 6 months, they actually gave you this job. But generally, what I experience pretty often is that people are like, I would say, maybe not stubborn, but a little bit afraid of, getting into the new tool. But this is just a tool, right?
Exactly. It is just a tool.
And Unreal is way more accessible, for sure. It is way more open, as you said. I believe it's even friendlier to start with. But can you give anyone the advice of actually to have this open-minded kind of approach as you're having, because I don't think that people should be afraid of, using new tools, right?
This is a good point, because oftentimes people will choose camps, like Unreal versus Unity, tabs versus spaces, and code and stuff like that. And I've always just been of the mind that it's like whatever tool gets the job done. People will ask, like, what is the best engine that I should use to make my game?
That's honestly, always the question.
It's the one that you know the best, then that is able to enable you to make the game the best. And often case for bigger games, like Unreal, of course, going to be the choice because it's got so many tools that have been proven to make AAA games. But like if I were to be tasked with making like a 2D hyper casual mobile game that I had to like get out in like a couple of days, I probably wouldn't use Unreal because I wouldn't be using all the features of it. That is a different tool for a different job. Like then you have like Godot and all the others. But there's a lot of tasks where Unreal is the right choice. And also often it is just like, what are you used to? Like nowadays I've been using Unreal for so long. If I'd never used any other engine, like maybe then it would be better to just make that hyper casual 2D game in Unreal if it like still my skill set. It's all about practicality. So I try not to do too much favoritism unless, if my job depends on it.
That's true. Okay, you gave the talk at Promised Land here. We are expanding. It's not only about art. We say united in art, but there's no art without that technology behind it.
Exactly.
Especially in games, but generally in movies right now too. Could you share some tricks, tips, knowledge?
Share a little preview from my talk.
Yes.
So, that's actually like, because you mentioned a little bit before we started this, is just general Unreal tips and tricks. So maybe I can do that without spoiling the presentation too much, because the presentation is going to go live at Unreal Fest Seattle in less than a month now. There's still a few tickets left, probably by the time this comes out. If not, sorry, I lied. But it's going to be online like a few weeks afterwards.
Okay.
But I'll start with what I encountered when I was starting on Returnal. And what I'm noticing that every other studio hits this roadblock when starting. That is the case of the references. If you're doing anything in Unreal and you're starting to scale up a little bit, whether that's the team or the project size itself, and if you haven't encountered this before, you will. That is, you're going to have too many references, hard references, which are these dependencies. And if you are referencing something, let's say you have the player character and it references another blueprint because you need to do, if I touch this blueprint, then do something special, or when I touch this one, then do something else. And you create these references to it by doing that. Now, before your player character can be loaded, it needs to load those blueprints. And those blueprints can reference other blueprints, and then so on and so forth. So you can have this tree of references that actually, like when you're loading into the game, you're referencing half the game's assets, even though they aren't loaded there. Because you might run into that object, but it's not loaded. Because you need to check for it. No, it needs to load it. So you have super slow loading times, and you have a lot of memory being used, and you don't know why. And then you get either like you start looking into it, or you get an outsourcing studio that will just come and look at it and say like, yeah, we suspected this. It's the references. There's references all over and it's pulling everything in. And then you have to set yourself this discipline of not putting hard references left and right. And this is just like kind of like, what do you call it? Something you have to walk through.
Like a habit, right? You have to have
a rite of passage.
That
you have to go through. It's like everyone has to go through this once to
trial
know.
By fire.
Trial by fire. It's the rite of passage. It's like, oh, you have to screw it up before you realize it's bad. And if you do, don't feel bad. Everyone has it. Like every AAA studio that I've talked to, they like, oh yeah, we started by that and then we realized it was horrible and then we refactored everything to use soft references or use interfaces. I actually do talk a lot about it during my presentation called Lessons Learned from a Year of Unreal Engine 4 AAA Development. It's on my website, art.games. Check it out if you're making your first Unreal game or if you're getting to a team, and it has a lot of like things I got burnt on and why the hell did no one tell me about all these things. That's actually how I try to make most of my presentations. All of my presentations I make are for my former self. This is for Ari just before he joined Housemarque.
That's nice.
Like this is for me. Like, hey, you did not know how to debug. Silly little thing. Here's advanced debugging in Unreal, presentation from a former self.
That was awesome.
You did not know how to profile your game. It was so hard to learn it. Here's maximizing your game's performance in Unreal Engine. Go ahead.
That's a nice approach.
And now the presentation I just did here at Pluff was myth-busting best practices in Unreal Engine. Because there's so many of these that are going on online, like never use tick, or don't use cast, or the child actor component is cursed. And I went through 9 myths that I fully wasn't sure on either when I was getting started. And I wish someone had just told me, like, hey, this is how you use it. Like, some of these are true, some of these are false. So that's what I did with this presentation. This is all for me, and it just happens that it applies also to so many other people.
From where did the drive come to actually focus on the community aspect and also on the aspect of sharing your knowledge? Is it because like you're doing this for your former self, let's say, or is it because you felt like I really love the tool, I really want to share it with everybody and make their life just so much easier so they can all kind of come on board with it?
I think it's kind of because like I went through all these trials and tribulations, and it kind of hurts my soul knowing that there are so many people that are doing the exact same thing and they don't need to. I can just make a presentation. If they see it, I've just spared them this pain. And it scales indefinitely because once it's online, like, you know, so I'm basically like hopefully preventing mass suffrage and by extension making games worldwide
That's also
better.
motivation, actually.
And also it's a little bit like I like sharing knowledge, and honestly, creating a presentation is the best way to learn a topic. That's why it takes me so long to make all my presentations. So this one, it took me 3 weeks of just pure research, like pure work, like, oh my God, I have to get this out before Promised Land. The last one I did, which was called Setting Up an Unreal Engine Studio the Epic Way. Again, for my former self, because we were doing everything wrong in Housemarque, and then we finally figured out a way to do it. I had to interview 12 studios for that one, inclling you guys, CD Projekt Red.
And we are grateful for that.
And thank you for all the input, and it helps everyone else. For that one, I made it over the span of 6 months. And I think in the terms of raw hours, it took me 2 months pure work. This is the most research I ever put into a single presentation. But it just means I was learning so much. So basically what I'm trying to say is if you have the ability or option to speak anywhere, if someone invites you to come speak, whether it's at a local meetup or just internally for the company or at a conference, jump on the chance, because like usually, like, if you really already know the subject, it will take like a week to throw together a presentation. If you need to do a lot of research, like I do, I jump on the chance to make presentations because it's something I don't know and I want to learn it. It can take like up to a month maybe. But if your company encourages you to do it, maybe you can spend 1 day a week of making a presentation. I encourage you to do that because you always learn something. Because you do have to make a slide and talk about all these things. And I never make a presentation and I already know everything. I have to like research it.
That's awesome.
So it's really good for yourself also. So it's a little bit of selfishness, like, oh, I want to learn this.
It's kind of like doing homework for the sake of learning the material, right? You need to really go through the materials in order to talk about it and also like create a presentation.
Stanford approach, I would say.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You do it by research. I love it.
I was also a little bit selfish when I started just doing all these meetups, because for me, I didn't know Unreal. And I was wondering, like, there are some Unreal studios within Helsinki where I live now, even though I'm originally from Iceland. And I was like, well, how can I get them to share their knowledge with me? I guess a meetup. They would share them with everyone else. And I guess like, that's like a extra benefit. But I just wanted them to share their deepest secrets and all their like practical knowledge with me. So I was like, hey, let's do a meetup. You guys can host us, maybe, or offer us pizzas. And then you get the community over. Maybe if you're hiring, it's great for you. And like, you get to be involved. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And then they give us like usually a presentation about something that they've learned. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And everyone else is like, yay. But it was mostly for me. I was like, I just wanted to know. And then I even when I said, like, I made this my own conference called Games Helsinki. And like I said, it's only a small one. The first one was 100 people. The second one was like 250. That was just like, I want like the executive producer from Remedy and the creative director from Housemarque and this guy who failed a studio. I want to know, what are the lessons learned from failing a studio? And I just asked them all personally, like, hey, can you talk at my conference? And most of them were like, yeah, I would love to.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Just sharing the knowledge. And I think that's also what Promesnat is about. Exactly. Because we have people from the industry, but also not from gaming, but also from the movie industry. All these things are kind of like blending into one another. And we're all pulling from each other's experience. We're all learning. And sometimes it's actually better to learn from someone who already went through, like you said, the tribulations, instead of, making the same mistake over and over. And then you're kind of learning when it's a little bit too late, right?
Yeah. So sometimes you might think, oh, I live in like a small town in Poland, maybe.
Yeah.
And you might be thinking, but there are no meetups next to me. It doesn't take much to start a meetup. You just need a location and a topic and a community.
Yeah.
And how I started it was I created a page on meetup.com. It doesn't need to be meetup.com. It can be like a Discord server. It can be some forums, like anything where game devs talk together online. You can say like, hey, let's do a meetup. Let's just do it at this bar and let's just take over one of the tables and just do a meetup. You don't even have to ask the bar for permission because you're just a group of people meeting there and talking about the common topics. So you're basically, what you've accidentally created is a round table.
Yeah.
And that's how I started it. Like we were like 5 people in the first one, just talking. And some people had some really cool things to share and we were learning. And usually you just need this spark. I call it the spark, the one who organizes things. Exactly. It's the spark.
Yeah.
But it's not the most amount of work. The work is the knowledge sharing, the presentations and the talking, and that comes from the other people. They're doing the work. But some spark needs to start to fire.
Someone needs to start it, right?
Yeah. And anyone can be that spark if you just have the initiative and drive to do it. And I really like to be that spark. And so now if you live in some small town or even a big city and you have like an idea for a very specific meetup, maybe you want to do an Unreal meetup, maybe you want to do a programming meetup, maybe you want to do a UX, UI meetup, animation meetup, like game designers meetup, concept arts meetup, anything.
Yeah.
Do it. Sometimes schools will offer to host you for free and they'll give you a classroom with the projector. Sometimes even like you have something, the city will even offer like, oh, we have this incubation or anything like that.
Yeah.
You never have to worry about like, oh, it's going to cost me anything. It just costs you time. But in return, you get to...
It was valuable time, right?
Oh, valuable time. Everyone's sharing knowledge and it kind of grows the industry wherever you're doing it.
Oh, I love it. And actually you said that you spent, for example, the recent presentation, you spent like 2 months on research. But actually your 2 months, in comparing it to probably thousands of people that are going to watch it and they're not going to fall into the trap.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you save so much lives. You know what I mean?
And that's the presenter part of it. Like the presenters are the one doing the work. And
the impact,
oftentimes if people do want to share knowledge, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Like me, I love sharing knowledge. But getting someone to share the knowledge is just an ask.
Yeah.
Can you share your knowledge with us?
Oh.
Yeah. So I do both. I both organize meetups and I do the presentations. The presentations is way more work, but you do learn a lot. You get a lot out of it. And usually because you throw away, like you don't show everything, you know even more about it than what you told everyone.
Yeah. Love it. Tell us, like, do you struggle sometimes, or you have no problems communicating with both programmers and artists? Yeah, because probably you hit the studio, indie, whatever, even us, right? And you have bunch of questions coming from all kind of disciplines, right?
Yeah.
All struggle, let's say, with some pieces of Unreal or whatever, but they look for something different, and you have to kind of like find a common language, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a solution for it, like how to communicate?
Luckily, like I think I already know the common denominator, which is the programmers. Like they're the most maybe arcane thing. Like people, usually producers will maybe say like, oh, the programmers speak their own language or something like that, or they're unnecessarily direct, or like they're such introverts or something like that. And since I already got that, like I am a programmer, I talk to programmers all the time. I used to be super introverted. Like you wouldn't believe how introverted I was. This is all just practice. You can become extroverted. Like I would call myself an extroverted introvert because I still like after this I'm gonna go home and I'm just gonna go like play video games.
But does it cost you? Like or you're like
it's a battery that empties. There are people that fuel themselves by doing this. For me, this is like I'm on all the time. I'm like smiling and looking you in the eyes. And I'm like, this is work for me. And then when I go home, I'm like, I can just play video games now. I don't have to talk to anyone. My fiance is like, hey Ari, do you wanna like? I'm like, let's just watch something together. I don't want to talk. She gets the leftovers. Like God bless my spouse, she's great, but but when it comes to talking to artists, they like I wouldn't say it's a different kind of language. They do ask questions that I often don't know, and it's being like us Epic Games, we are encouraged to just say, I don't know, when we don't. So that's what I do. Like we just had Meet the Artist. It's funny, I don't consider myself artist, but I was like, artist, I'm an artist. We had Meet the Artist. It was basically the Q&A after my presentation. And I got some questions and I was just like, I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it's just being able to say, I don't know.
Exactly.
If you're in a producer role where you do have to, where it's more important to be able to talk to all the ones, you need to be able to just ask.
Yeah.
That's actually the best way to learn something is by asking someone. And I want to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome now, because we're now on this topic, asking. And I've always liked learning. I just love learning. It's so much like knowing something new. It's just like, oh, yummy in my tummy, you know. But sometimes to get that knowledge, you just have to ask people. And I've never let that be a hindrance. So when I joined Housemarque as a lead programmer, here I am in this team of people that have been making console games for like longer than I've been alive. You know, they are super. Well, let's not say that, but like longer than I've been playing video games.
They're like over 20 years on the.
Yeah, it's the oldest game studio in Finland.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
and they're from the demo scene. Like I was wearing diapers during the demo scene, you know? And I'm supposed to sit down there and just be their lead. So some people would probably get imposter syndrome.
Sure.
But for me, I know that being a lead doesn't mean I have to be the smartest guy. It just is a different role. I would call it an obstacle remover. I am there to make sure the team can be as efficient as possible. So for that, I need to ask questions. And there were these two people that knew the most Unreal in the project. There was Arto and Juha. And just every chance I got, I was like, hey, how does this work? Hey, what is this? You wrote this code. What is this doing? I asked and asked and asked and asked. Probably annoyed them. But that was my way of getting information. Usually leads and producers and anything in a communicator role, you need to be able to ask the team if you don't understand anything. And I hear about people that have this imposter syndrome. And I think I probably would have had it if not for this insane thirst for knowledge. Because when you're suffering from imposter syndrome, you do not want anyone to know that you don't know things.
That's true.
And when you don't want them to know that you don't know things, you don't ask questions.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do.
Worst thing.
So you'll join a team and you'll bang your head against the wall on some problem that is just taking forever. Because you just didn't ask someone, because you didn't want them to know that you didn't know them. I'll let you all know. I made one game and then I'm suddenly like the spokesperson for Epic Games because everything I do all the time is asking questions and research. I ask my coworkers. I find the smartest coworkers that worked on specific, and I'm like, I don't know anything about this. Teach me everything you know. Give me your knowledge. And they do it. They're like, here you go. They maybe don't want to go on stage, but I'll go on stage. I'll do it. Don't worry about it.
That's the best part of working with people, I feel like, especially with people who have a broader knowledge about something that you're trying to learn. But the hardest part is actually breaking through that wall and actually going out and saying, okay, I want to learn from you. I want to pull from your experience because it will make me better. And I feel like it also will push the project in a good direction, because we're not, we should not probably talk because I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this. And it's like pushes you nowhere because you're just stuck. You're always stuck. But that pushes the whole thing forward and you're collaborating, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that's actually, a servant leadership kind of. You are actually removing obstacles. You help people, right? Like, I absolutely agree with you. Whenever you start playing the smartest person in the room, that's the dead end. It ends badly at some point, and it has to.
It's interesting because a lot of people who we talk to who have a lot of experience in a given field or in the industry overall, what they say is that, younger people come, smarter people come, and you need to learn from them. And you're always as good as your team is. And also, sometimes you're like, okay, I might have a background in this, but I'm really not the best person in it. So teach me how to do it. And that kind of makes the team better.
As a former lead programmer on Returnal, I can tell you this, because I've had to hire people. And it is impossible for you to know everything in the project or on the engine, because we've been working with it. Like, you don't know our code. So me as a lead, like, I already know what I'm getting when I hired you. You're not pulling a fast one on me. You're not like people with imposter syndrome, they think they're super clever hiding it from everyone, if they find out. It's like, well, you're giving yourself actually a lot of credit thinking you're able to fool everyone in the company. So the thing is, I don't expect you to know everything. Actually, I expect you to not know anything about our project.
Yeah.
What I do expect you to do is to ask questions.
Yeah.
So if someone does not ask questions, that's when I get worried. Like, why aren't they asking questions? Why aren't they getting to know how the project works? Why aren't they like asking me like, hey, how are the workflows and processes like that? And that's usually a warning sign. So if you're asking a lot of questions, that's good. I just don't want you to ask the same questions because then I get a little annoyed. But like, ask me a question, write it down. Just don't be knocking your head against the wall for a week when it could have taken 2 minutes to just ask the next senior or principal or lead or peer or anything.
It just makes work and life just so much easier if you ask the question.
There you go. I just cured imposter syndrome all over the world.
Thank you for that. That's a good pill.
That's the secret sauce, right?
Yeah. And actually, what you said, like, just do things, just ask things, ask questions. Like that sounds simple, but people don't do that, right? Like, as you said, like there's knowledge around, and you just have to look for it and ask for it. And people are like definitely like knocking the head against the wall very often, especially that nowadays it's pretty. I wouldn't call it smart, right? Like if you have a knowledge literally like lying on the floor waiting for you. And it's the same with the people, as you said, Discord. Like there's every single channel on Discord you can find and gather the knowledge. And you start from the Udemy, as you said, when it comes to Unreal. So that's the way.
Well, you have to be contacting people, and what I love also about technology now is that you have the ability, like you all both said, just go on Discord, bother the people you want to learn from and actually pull that knowledge out of them. But the important thing is also that to not have this, preconceived notion in your head that, I'm bothering them or I'm like taking their time, they're super important and stuff like that. Because sometimes you learn that people that you really look up to, well, they just want to share the knowledge also. And they feel happy that someone is actually coming to them asking these questions. So they can share it, right?
It also happens, let's say, with our RedKit or let's say the Nexus, right? People are asking like how to become, let's say, a quest designer. Just the mods, right? Like really, well, how about a quest team, I think. There are ex-modders and they've been really asking, they've been a part of community. They were like falling in love with the IP and they were trying to actually achieve something extra with the tools that are like open source. And that's actually, and they haven't asked the question directly to the company. We've been looking for them and we kind of found them too, right? And that's actually this underneath this dialogue between the creators, let's say, and the community that is happening also. So again, just do things, right?
Good. Do mods. Usually people ask me, how do I get a job in the industry? And like, for example, like a lot of studios now are using Unreal or whatever engine. And some people are like, which tutorials should I watch? Which courses should I take? And I'm like, well, you could do it the way I did it. And it's just literally just make stuff, just do stuff. And people will think, I have to make a whole game. Like, no. Don't make a whole game. Make one mechanic. Like, make a little sandbox, a little test project. Something you spend one evening on. And just make it like you can go through a whole Udemy course. And are you going to keep that all in memory? Because it's not until you have the questions and you try to apply them and you have troubles that you start learning. So actually, I just got this question during the Meet the Artist. And I told them, like, I have a mission for you. Make a small game that is, in this example, like, you can make whatever you want. Think of something more fun. But it's like, put a tree in the scene. Like already there you have to figure out how to find a tree, make a tree or something like that. And maybe find a free one on the Asset Marketplace. That's going to teach you already a lot. Have apples on it and make it fall every once in a while. Make it so that you can control a bucket with either the mouse or keyboard and you can catch the apples. Make the apples fall down faster and faster and make it take like 1 minute, the gameplay. And then at the end of the game, make a high score screen that shows you the score that you just got.
How many apples you gathered.
It's a super simple game idea. You could probably knock it out even if you don't know what you're doing in like a weekend. But the thing is, all of these teaches you, because it gives you a tool that you can put in your belt. It teaches you to put an asset in Unreal. One tool. Now I always know how to do that. It teaches you like, how to like start physics and make it stop first. Tool. Makes you, you have to learn to make one UI element. It's just a high score, nothing else. Nothing complicated. You don't need to learn first how to make a menu. To learn how to put an object on screen and increment the counter. Another tool in your belt. And then and then physics collision. This tiny little project teaches you so much. And then like next you can add to it, what if you add a little character that's holding it? And and also if during this you decide you're not having fun, scrap it, throw it away, do something else. You're also trying to figure out what you like and what you don't like, because in game development there's so many things you can be doing. You could put on many hats and be like that indie developer that does everything, or there's maybe one tool in Unreal or like outside of Unreal that you really, really like using. And guess what? In bigger AAA studios, there's a role only for that tool. I can promise you that. So you can focus only on that. But you need to figure out what you like.
And it gives you a broader knowledge of the whole process, right? Because it shows you a lot more, and then you can decide also what you want to specialize in. So you go in a specific direction that part of the whole project that appeal to you in this case.
If you spend 1 week, only the evenings, making janky prototypes, I can promise you will learn more than spending an entire week doing like a professionally taught class, but without doing anything.
That actually reminds me even that, like it actually applies to every single thing. Like there's a very famous, I think, interview, and I think he even puts it into his book, Stephen King. There's a question like, hey, can you give me advice on writing? Like, what should I do? Write. Just write. Like, just make a routine and write 1 hour a day. And ultimately it will make you a writer at some point, right? And
that's actually a really good point. It's the same with my presentations. Like people say, "Oh, Ari, you speak so well," and I'm like, "Well, I used to suck." Like they ask, "What's your secret?" Well, I used to suck at it. But every time I did a presentation, I sucked like the tiny bit less, like maybe 1% less. But now I've done 100 presentations. So every time you try to make a game, you'll suck at it in the beginning. But you'll always learn something, and you'll suck a tiny bit less. And that's how I got to where I am, to being a lead programmer on Returnal. It became 4 BAFTA awards, including Best Game, 20 Game of the Year awards. And I was like, I just made enough shit. And every time I got a little bit less shitty.
There is the like the 10,000 hour rule. That if you do something for at least the 10,000 hours, you will get good at it, like that, and also the like trust in the process, because we're very focused on the end goal, like getting to the finish line, but we're not thinking about how to get to that finish line or how to progress. We just want solutions very quickly. Well, this is a process that requires a lot of work, and you need to trust the process.
Trust the process, and it requires some grit, right? It requires some, I don't want to
determination,
call it,
right?
Determination, exactly. But still trust the process, because that's the thing. Awesome, man. But the funny thing is, because your ex-role, the evangelist, makes people think that you have literally answer for every single thing.
Everything.
And then you ask question or say, I don't know, but I will get back to you.
It's also funny because, people see evangelist and like I go to a lot of studio visits and I'm supposed to know a lot of answers. Like, sure, I'll know like what's upcoming because I see it on our internal channels and Slack and stuff. But the thing is, like, I shipped literally 1 game in Unreal and then I've just been traveling around and speaking. So many people that I talk to actually have more Unreal experience than I do. But I do research every presentation, so I'll know that topic well. But if people ask me anything outside of these topics, like they'll ask, Ari, how do I use behavior trees? I'm like, I don't know. I've never done that. How do I do animations? Like, I don't know. I saw some video about it, and just check out the video.
But even like as you are like in the middle of the epic, right? Like you have the hub for knowledge, for people, like there are great experts there in your company, right? Like I meet with them. Like people at Polaris Project, we have constantly checkups and meetings and stuff. Like great experts. At least you can point the direction, and that's enough, honestly, because people are lost sometimes. Just simple as that, right?
You just need the North Star to kind of guide you to the right direction.
Exactly. And you are the North Star.
Oh, thank you. Are you calling me your Polaris?
I see what you did there.
That's a good one. That's nice. Nice.
So what's next for you after all this? Like you're less evangelizing now, more if you can share, of course.
Knowledge sharing, I can share more knowledge sharing. So, as an evangelist, I used to go to all these conferences, but I would repeat the same presentation over and over, and then basically we're thinking like, hey, how about instead of going to all these smaller conferences, I just go to like some of the bigger ones or the most strategic ones, like CLAF, and with the time, instead of visiting, I'll just make another deeply researched presentation. So now what people can expect from me are hopefully double the amount of well-researched technical presentations, because it used to be like one a year. Now I can do at least 2 a year.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm gonna keep doing, because I really like it. I don't know any other workplace that would allow me to spend 6 months on making a presentation. I don't know where else I can do it, but I really like it, and I like learning. And Epic really enables me to do that. So I'm quite happy with this.
So I can definitely tell that what inspires you are the people that you can help.
Oh yes.
Yeah. But what else?
Yeah, you took my question.
Sorry, my friend. But you ask this question
I
always.
ask this question because I love this question. Like asking the question here, what inspires you is always like, because this is like Promise Sound is all about inspiration.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like,
networking,
what inspires
inspiration.
Because you say like what else, but the thing is nowadays, after I've created these presentations, they had a little bit of time to like ferment and like kind of spread throughout the community.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to get people to tell me like, because now when I come to either conferences or studio visits or anything, people will go like, "Hey, I know your face. Where do I know you from?"
Exactly.
And then I'll tell them about maybe some of my presentations. They're like, "Yes, I was the profiling one. It helped me profile my game." That makes me feel like, so you made a better performing game because of me?
Yeah.
Because that makes me really happy.
Super rewarding,
so that's,
right?
And that's what I'm getting kind of more and more of now. It didn't used to happen in the past because like I just gave the presentation and people say like, "Oh, cool. Maybe I'll put it into practice. We'll see."
Yeah.
But now the presentations have been out there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and I'm seeing the effect. Like people say like, "Ari, like your presentation helped us make our game so much better."
Yeah.
And they're accessible.
So
like
it didn't necessarily used to be the drive, but now I'm like, "Oh my God, this feels so nice."
Yeah.
And I did this one presentation called Maximizing Games Performance in Unreal Engine. It was based on just like how to profile and find slow stuff for your game. Not necessarily about fixing it, but finding them.
Yeah.
And I never expected such like a technical talk to become popular, but just like a week ago or two, it went over 100,000 views.
Wow.
Now that made me feel
That's
good.
the
Like,
number.
oh my God, so this talk is actually helping people make better games.
Honestly, I don't know if there is something more rewarding than that impact that you're having. That's super awesome. Really nice. That's amazing.
And that took a while to get there because like I've been just throwing stuff into the darkness and like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And nowadays people are like, "Hey, I watched your presentation." Like, "Hey, you're that guy."
That's the best thing you can do. It also really validates your work and the things that you do for the people, and they resonate with the stuff that you're putting out. And sometimes you don't know, like you said, you're putting in a void and you don't know what the impact is. But then when you go to like a conference or you get messaged by someone, you see like, "Oh, you're that guy. I saw your presentation. It helped me." That's very, very validating. You're like, it really puts the purpose into what you're doing. And that's always very important.
That's amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I recommend people like find out what, kind of gives you that drive.
The drive, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
And for me, it wasn't ever about like, the fame or whatever. Like before COVID, I was completely unknown. And then after COVID, I was like, I had a shipped game and was just started Epic Games. And already when people see this logo, they treat me like I'm famous, but I'm like, I'm still that same nerd who used to program and do little meetups. And
there's this mission, right? In you.
And also, like, if you see someone from like companies like CD Projekt Red or Epic Games, even though it's a big logo and famous, like we're still just people making video games. We're still humans.
We're still nerds.
Yeah. Like, even like I was surprised when I came and visited CD Projekt Red, and they were like, "Hey, you're Ari." And I was like, "Wait, why are you acting like I'm the famous from Newcastle? The famous from Newcastle played Witcher. Oh my God, you're the Witcher guys." And they're like, "But you're the Epic guy."
We all nerd out on each other's stuff, and it resonates with us, and we're excited by it, right?
That's how children being starstruck by the logo and like, "Oh my God, but you did that thing." So we're not intimidating. We're not some like, "Oh my God, from that big famous company," because like if we all were to quit our companies and start our little indie studio, suddenly we don't have those logos anymore. I bet you we become way more approachable by everyone.
That's true. That's true.
It's just a T-shirt we're wearing.
Yeah.
Look, Epic Games representative, human.
And the North Star.
And the North Star, our Polaris.
Exactly. All right, Ari. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you for
to
having me.
us.
This was fun.
We had that was amazing.
I thought we talked about a lot of technical stuff, but we actually talked about a lot of practical stuff for like people wanted to get into the industry.
That's kind of the focus, because the whole idea behind the podcast is to share the knowledge and also showcase how we work and how other work and what kind of drives them, and how to share the knowledge. Because I feel like the podcast is for someone who is either trying to get into the industry or is in the industry, or is pretty much facing some maybe harder times in order what to do, how to do it. And we're kind of providing the
I really like that. Always for me, like if a company is trying to hire me, I always look at like how much are they knowledge sharing or interacting with the community. So for me, like this makes CD Projekt Red like an amazing studio.
Oh, thank you so much.
Community has always been in the core of how we do games and how we interact with the community.
We really care about gamers and about our relationship with the community in general.
Really always collecting feedback, staying in touch with them, keeping it very also informal and personal. So that's super important.
And it's not business oriented. It's very true.
You need to know your community in order to make your products better. That's the number one thing.
Exactly.
And if you become detached from your community, well, that's when bad things happen.
So not only thank you for having me over, but also just thank you for everything you're doing for the community in greater, like with sharing all your knowledge at, all these conferences, GDC, Unreal Fest, and even with this podcast, because apparently the others weren't enough for you guys.
Thank you so much, Ari, for coming.
The more the better. Thank you.
The blast. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for watching, and we hope that you did enjoy this episode as much as we did.
It was an amazing one, and as always, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Let us know what you're thinking about the episodes, and as always, let's stay in touch, and we'll see you in the next one.